Welcome to the Anchored Podcast. Have you ever wondered how to stay grounded in your faith amid heartache, confusion, and a seemingly mass exodus of people leaving the faith? My name is Roseanne Dawes.
And I'm Stephanie Frankham. And we've discovered that being anchored in Jesus Christ is the key to navigating these rough waters. Join us as we explore how their faith and covenants have helped each of our guests navigate the storms of life.
Hello, and welcome to the Anchored Podcast.
We are so happy to have you here for this episode so that we can introduce you to Sam.
And Sam is my nephew, and I love him so, so much. And, I've gotten to know him more as an adult, getting to know his heart, getting to know his spirit, getting to know just his story. And he has such an incredible story. And when Stephanie and I were starting this podcast and thinking of people to invite on, Sam was one of the first people that I thought of. And, we all have our different rows to hoe, and we have our different stories, and we have different things that just pull us closer to Christ. And Sam has one of those amazing stories, and I'm excited to see which parts he wants to share with us today. So Sam, go ahead and just tell us just a couple things just to introduce yourself here.
Yeah. So I'm Sam, 28, served a mission over in Texas, McAllen, down on the bottom of the border. Was Spanish speaking, but majority of it was Spanish speaking, but there were still some good parts that were English. I'm the oldest of five, married to my beautiful wife, Patricia. We've been married going on 5 years. We have our home over in Texas, currently working and living in Utah with my parents as we try to transition over here. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. We've got 4 dogs. We're a dog family, so got our fur babies, and yeah, we love Texas and we love Utah.
And what do you do for work?
Currently I work for CenturyLink or Lumen. I do internet, phone lines, kind of all the above with just kind of that stuff as far as like networking homes, getting internet up and going. So for the most part, a lot of it's kind of laborious, a lot of it's outdoors. So being in St. George makes it a little bit more optimal with the weather kind of being all in the same,
Right.
same 20, 30 degrees.
Yes. It's a little chilly up here in Salt Lake.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do it in the snow.
Right.
Seriously. And did you grow up? Did you say that you grew up in the church?
Yeah, yep. So I
Okay.
grew up in the church. Always have been in the church growing up. My dad was a bishop for 8 years,
Extra credit for him.
consecutively.
Yeah.
Yep, he lucked out somehow. So
Wow. Well, wonderful. Well, we're excited to hear your story. If you want to just go ahead and jump right in.
sure. Yeah, so kind of like I was saying, grew up in the church. Ended up going on a mission to Texas, is where I was called. Served there for 2 years. Learned Spanish, English, obviously. It was both in the areas. The mission for me was a little bit different. I had 2 different mission presidents in my 2 years. So my first year I had one president. Second year I had a second mission president. They were both very different. One was from Chile and one was from Honduras. The one that I had my second year didn't know English very well. So his communication to us in English was a little bit different. But ended up serving there for 2 years, ended up moving back. Didn't want to be, I guess, relying on my parents after having lived about on my own for 2 years. So moved back to the one place that I did know, which was Texas. Lived over there for a little bit in the same area, and then didn't attend church too much. I did for the first little bit, and then kind of just wanted to figure out for myself, having grown up in the church and then serving a mission. I knew the church was true, but I hadn't known any other side of it. So I wanted to just figure out what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be. Um, and then being back in my mission area, I still kept up with a lot of the missionaries that were in the areas and a lot of the converts, so that was good. Um, but the way that it ended kind of with my mission president towards the end, he wasn't super fond of me, so our relationship towards the end wasn't the best. I hadn't done anything wrong or anything disobedient. And I don't know, like I said, if it was his English, the the way he would conversate with us, but it just came off very strong and very not like our first mission president that I had. So having moved back there, leading up to that, I'd only attended the temple maybe, I want to say maybe 4 times to do like endowments and different things. Um, 2 of those were in the mission in Mexico City, and then a couple times here as well. But so I believe that was in 2018 when I got back, and then from 2018 to roughly 2020, 24, 22, I believe. Um, I had bounced around with work. I was working in Texas at that time. Got a promotion. We moved to a different area, and we were working there. And I'd been with that job for going on 3 years, and it seemed like it was getting just a little bit harder and harder as time went. I didn't see myself doing it long term. So started looking for jobs in the area, applied around for 6 months or so, and everybody was looking for work. Everyone was looking for people, and I didn't get any calls, nothing. And we were just kind of puzzled. We were like, okay, well, maybe I do have to stick it out with this job. Maybe this is where we're supposed to be. And then we were also at the same time looking at maybe moving back to Utah to be closer to our extended family, because we were out in Texas just kind of by ourselves, which we liked, but we also wanted to be near family. So we looked in Utah for jobs as well, because it's like, well, if we're going to move there, we're going to need to get set up with a job first and then move. So looked around, applied with this job, and almost immediately they offered a job offer, and it was actually starting out in Salt Lake. So we ended up thinking that that was the right move. A couple weeks prior to that, me and my wife do date nights on Thursdays. We'll go out, get food, talk, chat, all that good stuff. And that date night in particular, we were kind of just sitting in the parking lot after we had gotten food, and we were just talking, and we both felt like something was missing. Up to that point, I mean, when we first met, we had nothing, and I mean, it's not about like physical things or anything like that, but I mean, we just had a little apartment, barely had a car, and over the last couple saved up, gotten into a home, bought a couple of good vehicles. So I felt like we had a good understanding of everything that we felt like we physically needed or wanted, and we'd gotten to that point where we felt like we had those things. But something still was missing. My wife's been a member of the church as well, since she was, 8. She was baptized. So was I. And we both just felt like something was missing. And talking, and at that time we were pretty close with my dad. We had reached out to him as well, and we were talking with him. But we had made the decision to go back to church because we felt like it was something that we did need, and we felt like it was that part that was missing. So on that Thursday, we made the decision to start going back. We went on Sunday, and then that Sunday was Fast Sunday as well. So we fasted and then worked in the next couple of months with our bishop and getting everything straightened out to where we could work towards getting to the temple again. That was something that I felt like for us, just kind of having that eternal perspective made it a little bit easier. But kind of again, not having the church during that time, it always felt like something that's empty. And as we've tried to fill it with physical things that, I guess those worldly things, it always felt like we got close, but never really felt like we did going to church, feeling the Spirit, being clean, um, just those little things. And so as we started to go to church more, as we started to take those steps in repentance, we also felt that our relationship together came a lot closer. Reading the scriptures nightly prayers, morning prayers. I mean, our relationship became a lot deeper by bringing Christ into it, and so it's been good. So since then, we've been active. I was able to work through my side of things with my bishop, stake president, different areas, and get back to the temple. My wife, she has some health things that she's going through, so she's not able to attend as much as she would like to. She has an autoimmune, so but we're working towards getting to the temple so that we can both get married in the temple. So in that transition of things, I ended up getting the job over here in Utah. Kind of bummed it with Brian and Rose for a little bit.
And we loved it.
Very grateful for their hospitality and letting me stay. So that was awesome. And then after being there for, I want to say 2 or 3 months, I had the opportunity to transfer down to St. George, which is where we were ultimately trying to get to, where my family's from. So transferred down here. And then when that all kind of happened is when the stock market and the home market kind of went up and down, and home prices skyrocketed, interest rates skyrocketed. So we weren't able to get out of our house. And then working down in St. George, being with my family, working away from home essentially. Within that year of me working here, my little sister, so me being the oldest of 5, my sister, 2 siblings below me, one day she just didn't wake up. And it was a Friday, and I remember being at work. My dad was at work. My little brother was at work. And I just remember getting a call that Lexi was found in her bed unconscious and that they were rushing her to the hospital. That's all we knew. So rushed into the hospital. My little sister, Burkel, is the one that went to go wake her up. Lexi was kind of a night owl. She would stay up all night, sleep during the day. So we just thought it was just a normal day. She was just sleeping. And they went in. They believe she had an anoxic brain injury where I'm not medically terminated. I don't know the medical terms of it, but essentially her insulin's balanced out with another hormone or another part of the body that regulates the body. But essentially she was put into a coma. She was in a coma for a little over a week, and during that coma with a anoxic brain injury, her brain essentially just lacked oxygen. So she couldn't, her brain essentially was just not functioning without that oxygen. We don't know how long she didn't have oxygen for. We don't know how long she wasn't breathing. So all those things were kind of a mystery. So we all were at the hospital for roughly a week, day and night, watching her. She had a spinal tap and a probe in her head measuring her pressure. And essentially when we got there, they just said, we've never seen this in a girl her age or this young. Pretty much just say your goodbyes. You're going to have to make a decision here in the next hour or 2. And that was extremely hard because we had just shown up to the hospital. She wasn't conscious. She was in a coma, and we were being told that she was not going to make it through the night. So as we sat in that room, they told us, watch this pressure gauge. If it goes above this certain point, we may have to pull the plug. And as me, my brother, my sisters, my mom, and my dad all sat there, we all just took turns watching that pressure gauge. And after the first day, never went above that. Second day, never went above that. The third day, it didn't go above the threshold that they said. And it just seemed like every day she was kind of just defying the odds that these medical doctors were giving us. And I remember each and every day the doctors was like, "Oh, give it another day, give it another day." And it was like, no matter what things we were seeing, it seemed just like the medical side of it was like, this is not possible. She's not going to come out of this. And then during that time, I remember specifically me, my dad, and my little brother, we all said we were going to fast. And I can't remember exactly, but I believe it was 72 hours straight. Just no water, no food, knowing if there was anything that we could do, that would be the one thing that we could. And my dad, growing up, he always, especially with him being the bishop, he'd always tell us, God is bound to bless you when you do the things that he asks. And one of the biggest blessings and the ways that he can bless you is through fasting. So those 3 days we fasted, and I know there was, a massive amount of people aside from us doing that, but for us, we felt like that was the best thing that we could do. So we fasted those 3 days, and then I believe that next day, she was still in a coma, but her hands started moving. And they said that was normal, that the nerves in the body, with the blood flow and the different things, that's just typical, that the nerves react, the body reacts, and it's just her normal body function. But slowly over the next 2 days, those movements started to become more and more. And she had a follow-up with the neurologist that was up north, and it was over a Zoom call. And as we were talking with him, listening to him, he had the nurse just kind of go through some basic things, pinch the shoulder, pinch the leg, pinch the toe, grab her hand, pinch her fingers. And to everything that she had done per his orders, there was some kind of reflex, whether it been, her shrugging or moving her arm or her leg. And so he kind of took a little bit. We were all just on the edge of our seat with, the news that he was going to give us. And he said, I'm one of the most pessimistic doctors there is. And on paper, I can tell you there's no recovering from this. But as I physically see her, he's like, all I have is hope. And that was all we really needed to hear. So slowly after that time, she was able to wake up. She opened her eyes. She kind of had to relearn, not necessarily how to talk, but her motor skills. Over the next year, she, my mom, and my little sister lived up north in hospice for a couple months as she recovered, relearned how to walk. So, and a lot of her memory, she doesn't know more or less what happened to her, why it happened or anything like that. So throughout all that rehab, she was able to move back down to St. George, was in the hospital down here again for just a little bit, a couple months, and then she was able to come home. So since then, she's been home for, I want to say, close to 7 or 8 months or so. She's pretty coherent. She still has little seizures here and there. She's able to walk, talk. Her memory, for the most part, is back and forth. So each and every day is different. But that, I think, is testaments to me, and I know our family, but pretty much her just coming back from the dead and still being here with us. There's no way to explain it. There's no way to say it other than there was miracles and blessings and prayers and tons of fasting that went into it, and she's just a walking miracle at this point, and we're just glad she's still around. She's essentially, her emotions are like a kid. She, her prayers are just like a toddler's would be. Um, she's a food junkie, so she loves her sweets. She won't always eat what she needs to stay as healthy as she can, but um, yeah, it's just crazy. From one day to the next, she was, and leading up to that, she had some health issues as well. She was kind of fighting through with um, different foods. Just her health in general was kind of in question as far as where to go. She had been to many doctors leading up to that with no answers, no questions that had answers to them, and um, yeah, just crazy how from one day to the next she's through all of that, just a completely different person. Um, but all of that, I mean, brought us together as a family more than we ever could have imagined, um, which is
Sam,
unfortunate through that way. But I'm
so,
sorry.
so this was after you had come back to the church, right? All of this
Yeah. Yep.
happened. So what was going through your mind during this process of this? Well, when it first happened, as well as the recovery period, which I sounds like she's still in part of that. But what
hmm
was going through your mind, and what was going through your wife's mind?
Um. Well, part of it, we wanted my wife to be there, but with her autoimmune stuff, we did not. I mean, me and her to be around the hospital very much, just because of the germs, and last thing we needed was her getting sick. Um, but my wife's autoimmune as well. She's had her ups and downs. She's been to the point in a different scenario, like my sister, where they told her she wasn't even supposed to make it. Um, she's had a staghorn cocci removed from her kidneys. She's had kidneys issues. Um, her body just hasn't functioned properly since getting sick. And she was in a hospital for a couple months as well, where they told her that she wasn't going to make it. So her initial response was, I've been through this, and I know that it can work out, just like it has with me. And the only thing that we can do is pray, and we know that God is a God of miracles, and if it's His will, it's going to be His will, and if it's not, she's meant to be in a better place. And so between us, all of our family during that time, it was very tough, lots of late nights, but I feel like through all of that, our family as a whole is just so much more closer, and more deeply rooted in knowing that miracles do exist, and that as we do the things that we strive to do, blessings come, but sometimes they're not always the blessings that we expect. Some of those blessings are promised in the next life or in different aspects or different areas, but for whatever reason, um, we were blessed, and she's still here with us. So I don't think during any of that time there was any doubt, but I do think there was a little bit of fear, not doubt, just a little bit of fear of worst case scenario. How do we cope? How do we handle this, or what are the next steps? But we always had that faith that if there's anything that can be done, it'll happen right now, and it did.
It's been such an awesome experience to just watch your family just pull together for Lexi, a common cause. And the faith that you guys have expressed has just it's been miraculous just for me to watch that and to see that and to still to this day. I mean, when did this happen? What, year ago, 2 years, year and a half?
Yeah, it happened last year in May.
Okay. Yeah. So year and a half ish. And it's still, we had your sister up here, your other sister up here for a little bit. And just, we were
Yeah.
talking about just how, you kind of just live your life like this could be the last day. So we're just going to love, and we're just going to be together, and we're just going to do what we got to do. So love that. I did have a question for you, Sam. One thing that we had talked about in the past, when you decided to come back and you
Yeah.
called your dad and you just said, this is what we're going to do. He gave you a warning. Do you remember that? About
Oh, yes. Yeah. So it was that Thursday when we told him we were coming back to church, something that we're missing. Um, and yeah, that warning that he gave is he said, as you start to do the things that you know are true and that are going to bless you and your family and your wife, things in your life are going to get a lot harder. And almost to that day, that Thursday, that following Friday, everything at work got harder. And from that point on, everything just seemed like we just hit a wall almost. So going to church, we were doing the things we were supposed to, started paying our tithing, obeying all the, the word of wisdom and all the different things that we know we needed to do. But almost immediately, the adversary recognized that, and everything just got so much harder for us. And each and every day, me and my wife would talk about it, and it just seemed like one thing after another between work, health issues, different things like that. And so over that transition, that's when I was also looking for a different job. And that's when we had the 3-4 months of applying. I kid you not, probably like 150 jobs within, Dallas and San Antonio, different areas with 0 calls. And it was like, all right, it's getting hard. It's getting rough to do. And that's when we had prayed, and it was like, well, let's see what Utah has in store for us. And as soon as we did that, that's when we reformation that, if Utah is where we're meant to go, meant to be, then this job will work out. And that's exactly what happened the day that we applied and got the call. So yeah, it was, I mean, it's good to know, and it's good to see that those things that were coming were from that side of us going back to church. Because as we tend to do the things or, make those wrongs right, he does try significantly more when we're kind of coasting and, doing those worldly things. He doesn't have to pay as much of attention to us because we just willingly will make those choices. But as we willingly make the choices to do those right things, it's almost as if he knows and wants to make it even harder for us to make those options available. And I feel like as we've, come closer to the church and, between me and my wife's relationship as well, I feel like another thing that he's put in our path is distance. And, I've been working away. I go back every 3 months for 10 days or so, and it's been almost 2.5 years doing that. And, it's very tough at times with, her health and just being so far away. But we also know, all the things that we've done have got us to this point. And, God's blessed us to be where we're at. We always know it could be worse. But we just know that as we continue to do the things we're supposed to, it'll all work out in His time and His way. And that's just how it's been.
It's just been so beautiful to just watch all that happen because, you see the hard things coming, but yet you always just have this calm presence, and you just kind of, you're rooted in truth, and you also see His hand in so much. And just to be able to just see both sides of it and choose the peaceful side. And it's just been awesome to watch. Oh, we're so happy to have you on today. So one last question, Sam. Well, Stephanie, did you have anything for him?
Actually, I had a question. I am just so curious. I'm sorry. When you had gone from this place of, okay, both of you are out of the church. First of all, were the two of you married, both of you active, or you weren't at all active, either of you at that point?
No, when we had gotten married, we weren't active. We'd been married, not active for, I want to say close to 2 years or so.
Okay. So then when you were coming back in, I'm so curious, two things. And one is, what did that look like, your prayers with the Lord as you start this relying on him again? And the second is, how were you received at church? Those are the two things that I'm just so curious about.
Yeah. So I want to say prior to that, I feel like we would pray individually here and there, but it wasn't a necessary necessity, or something that we made a focus. So, you know, we made our date nights a focus. When we really needed things or stuff like that, we would pray. I mean, we weren't super distant from God during that time. It was more so just the church aspect of it. Um, but as we started to do that, we would read nightly, kind of teach each other things that we know, and then just praying nightly also brought us closer. But I feel like that as a whole just really deepened our relationship as well. Coming back to church, just seeing that eternal perspective, I feel like helped us more than anything. Knowing that, regardless of where we're at in this life physically, if I'm working and providing and, we're able to do the things that we need to do, regardless of how much physical time, we're together, we've got eternity. So that's made it easy seeing that eternal perspective. And then going to church, I mean, it was great. Very small ward. It was an elderly ward, not a lot of kids. But the bishop, he'd been the bishop for a while. He himself was a convert, so he understood both sides of it, and he was very open and honest and in wanting to, help us take those steps for ourselves to get to where we wanted to be, as far as getting to the temple and being back and involved in the church. And all the members were very welcoming, and any way we can help, please reach out. And to this day, we're still good friends with a lot of them. And, I feel like church in general, depending on where you're at, is different as it goes state by state. Growing up in Utah, it was just common courtesy, everybody goes. But as you get to Texas, I don't know what it is there, but the people that go are just so deeply rooted, and there's hell or high water, they're getting to church no matter what. And it was just crazy having grown up in Utah and seeing how it's just the normal stigma, and then serving in Texas, bishops and different wards and different members, and just seeing how the kids were just so deeply rooted in the gospel. And it was like, today at church today at school, one of my friends said a bad word, and I told him that I can't hang out with you. And it's like, and growing up, it was like, I wish I would have had the courage to say that, but, these kids in these different areas where the church is, a lot smaller, it's a lot easier to recognize, those things. And so having seen that, just the members there just made it very easy for us to come back and do that with open arms. And same with the missionaries. The missionaries were awesome with, we were having them over often, feeding them, and, they were helping us just do the things we needed to do to feel the Spirit each week and helping that repentance process. So.
Yeah, I love that. I grew up in Tennessee, so I was in the mission field growing up, and I know what you're talking about, these smaller branches and so forth, and the commitment that has to be there. I was the only one. I had one person in my high school that was a year older than I was, and he was dating my best friend. But there was at least that connection. And then, but the other thing that I wondered is, having that background, what advice would you give to somebody, a return missionary who is teetering, whether they have a testimony, whether they are okay with this, or a parent that is holding on and trying to figure out how to help a child who is on a faith journey?
Yeah. I feel like I feel like there's not going to be a one answer for all. I feel like everybody's got to find that for themselves. But I feel like in general, as long as they rely on the experiences that they have been through and what they felt in those times, those are going to be the things that help remind them of where they need to be and what they need to do. I mean, everybody goes through a point in their life where, they question if what they're doing is correct, and that's just the adversary trying to get us to question. I had the same thing, who I want to be, what I want to do, and I feel like for the people that may be teetering on that question, biggest thing is you can do is just pray about it. Through prayer, we don't always get the answers that we need. Sometimes we need those experiences that we have for us to validate for ourselves that we are doing the right things. I don't know, it's tough. It's living in the world is, there's so many different things out there that you can cope with. And I think the biggest thing is, at the end of the day, everybody wants to know where we're going after this life, what we're doing, what's our purpose. And once we find what our purpose is, we kind of find that eternal perspective, and nothing really strays us from that. Just knowing that if we do these things, we will receive those promised blessings. But yeah, I feel like for anybody that's either, on the fence or struggling, I don't feel like anybody can really help you through that besides you and God. And those experiences that you're going to go through, or, you're meant to have happen to understand those things. But I know for me personally, I went through those things, and now feel like I'm more deeply rooted than I was before. I don't know, it might sound bad, but growing up in church in fast and testimony meeting, anytime a convert would get up there, I'd always say, man, I wish I had a testimony like that, right? All I've known is this. I haven't, experienced anything else. And when a convert gets up there, it's just like, no matter what I do, no matter what they say, I'm just bawling at the end, like, man, that testimony is so strong. Like, what do I need to do to get that? And it's not that I went out of my way to do that, but I feel like through my conversion myself, I was able to do that, and it wasn't anybody else telling us. It was just us wanting to make that decision. And I feel like, as long as we're the ones making that decision, there's not that there's peer pressure or anything, but there's, it's not to feel like your family forces you to go, or you need to be there because if such and such sees you not at church, they're going to come reach out to you. It's not anything to put anybody to shame or anything like that. It's just, if it's not something that you're going out of your way to do, maybe that, motive's not 100% yours. And so as we find those things that we want to do and make it a priority for us, it tends to become a habit, and it's something that we try to continue to do. But if it's something that's just kind of there, it's like the motive behind it is not 100%, if that makes sense. Kind of feel like I'm rambling here, but I don't know. I feel like everybody kind of has their journey. Everybody has a different time in life where they, ask those questions. And I feel like if anybody wants to change or really find out, as long as they make that decision for themselves, that if they get the answer that they need, to stick with it and continue. But I feel like just relying on those experiences and continuing that down that pathway is what keeps you steady and in the right direction.
So good. And it's been so fun to just kind of watch you, when your brother left on his mission, you were able to give him some advice and different things to help him
Yeah.
be successful on his mission too. And it's just because of your experiences, right? So you're able to share that and just bless his life too. And he's going to be coming home soon, right?
Yeah, he comes home in July. So he actually comes home on my birthday, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. So good. Oh, thank you so much. We just have one last question for you, Sam. Why do
Yeah.
you choose to stay in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
I choose to stay in the Church of Jesus Christ Saints because with the experiences that I've had in this short 28 years I've had in life so far, there's certain things that I can't explain. I can't put my finger on. I can't, unsee those things or unhave those feelings. But I just know that my life's better each and every day as I'm in the church, regardless of the physical and temporal distractions or, things that come my way as I continue to do those things. But I just know that through the church, I can have an eternal perspective on the next life and being able to, be with my wife and our family, and just holding on to that, knowing that that is something that we can be promised if we continue to live by the covenants and the commandments that he's given us. So I feel like for us, that's a no-brainer at this point, having gone through those things. So
Thank you. Thank you so much. I've had a number of loved ones who have left the church or are struggling with testimony now, some that have come back and so forth. But I love, love, love your counsel, and that was to remember and hold on to what you've already been given. Don't let go of that. And I see that that's exactly what you're doing. That's what you're holding on to even now after you have come back. And it's just beautiful to see. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
And we want to thank
course.
our listeners too for just joining us and just being part of these stories that we share each week. And we encourage you that if you have your own story that you want to share, we invite you to email us at anchoredinChristpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to talk to you and get your story and possibly put this out there, because we know it really does help everyone on their journey. We love the different stories. So, and then of course, with the like and share this podcast with friends if you feel like there's someone that could share from hearing Sam's story. We would love for you to share that, and we just appreciate you. Thank you. We'll see you next week.